Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Hollywood Dish, the show where we dish all things Hollywood. As always, I'm Rebecca North.
And I'm Nicole Rovine.
Today, it's just the two of us, and we're going to break down all the latest in pop culture and celebrity news so you'll be informed heading into this week's SNL episode. Nicole, what's your weekly update?
My weekly update, not much going on. It's still January, but it's been a little bit colder in New York City than it was a few weeks ago. So I've been enjoying my regular walks a little bit more. I'm such a 10,000 steps kind of gal, which has been harder lately. But you know what? I'm kind of back into it. So that's my main thing. I've been watching some TV, a little bit in my Succession era still. I got this hat that just came in the mail. I just had to show everybody it's Tom. It's always Tom. I'm just going to wear it for a minute. See, it's so cute, right?
It's cute. It's cute. I'll give
You're
you
like,
that.
it's so weird. And you're right. It's weird. It's just me. It's just me being my
I
true
like the
self.
design of it more than the fact that he's on a hat. I like
Yes.
the retro hearts in the background, like trying to make it artsy.
Yeah, that's so true. It's actually, if it weren't so insane, it would be actually really cute. Yeah. How about you? What's new with you?
Nothing new. I complain about it being cold in Seattle, but like I'm walking outside in 50-degree weather as I'm on the phone with my mom, who's like, it's -1 with wind chill in New York. So I have to stop complaining about that. But I'm really happy to be here because this is a highlight of my week. And yesterday was a hard day for myself. And I know you and probably many out there.
Oh,
I know last week we talked about Amy Schneider's run on Jeopardy. Last Friday, she tied Matt Amadio. I say that wrong every time. Matt Armadillo.
Amodio.
Amodio. Matt
Yeah.
Armadillo.
Armadillo.
She tied she tied Matt Armadillo at 38 consecutive wins on a normal season of Jeopardy, and Monday she beat the record, which has been really exciting. I also got that wrong. The numbers are a little off, but yesterday on her 40th episode in her track, she lost, and it was really hard to watch, but at the same time, you have to think about the fact that she did so incredibly. No one was ever going to beat Ken Jennings. It is nearly impossible to have 74 consecutive wins, and I'm happy for her, and especially happy that she's like rolling around in a big pile of cash today.
Yes, yes. I literally got into it that last day that she won. I was like, you know what? I'm going to dive into this. I love Jeopardy when this is my favorite type of Jeopardy phase or era. It's when someone is having a dominant win and people critique the show and say it gets boring when that happens. But I think that's when I want to tune in. Otherwise, I'm not really invested. But when you become invested in someone's personal story and journey, that's when Jeopardy gets fun and magical. And so I literally got into it. I was so late the day before she lost. So I had one Amy win under my belt of being a hardcore Amy stan, and then of course, it got taken away from me, ripped away from me. But I'm so excited for her. She's just and now that she's more of a public figure after all of this, she's so much fun to follow on Twitter. And I'm sure that we have not heard the last of Amy Schneider and her presence as a public figure and a really genius person who is just fun to watch her brain, and I'm sure we're going to see that in other ways outside of Jeopardy.
Yeah, well, if you were a true Jeopardy fan, you would know she will be playing in the Tournament of Champions. So we will see her on our screen not too far from now, which I'm excited about. But what you're saying that people don't like when there's a consecutive winner for that many episodes, I love that. My problem is like it blows up and Jeopardy becomes so mainstream. And I love that. I love being able to go into Twitter and TikTok and watch people post about Jeopardy, but I get upset when it dies down. Like it's not as much fun for me. And I don't have as much interaction with one of my favorite shows. So I need to get a hat with Amy Schneider's face and retro purple and pink hearts on the back, and we'll wear it next episode.
Yes.
But I'm excited. I mean, the fact that she was on Watch What Happens Live, that is like so cool. And not only was her journey incredible, but her story too. And just to get it out there on such a national platform, it's just, I love her. I loved watching her journey, and it won't be the end of Amy Schneider. And I kind of hope she's on The Chase. If you don't know what that is, it's a show with a lot of past Jeopardy champs like Ken and James Holzer, and it's another game show where people kind of fight back with them and they compete against brilliant Jeopardy champions. And I mean, I'm Team Amy for that. They don't have any females up there. And I mean, we need a woman up there. And I think that, yeah, I'm excited to see everything she's going to do.
Yes. Yes, me too. Okay. So we're going to do things a little bit differently this week. So we're going to dive into all of the biggest pop culture stories, but we're going to do something a little bit special. Let us know if you like it. We're going to be doing a little segment called Hit or Miss, and we're going to talk about some things that SNL covered last week. So we're going to give you a breakdown on some pop culture references you might have missed or not understood. You're like, where is that coming from? And then we'll talk a little bit about the ones that we predicted and where we were right, or things that we totally could have predicted and did not. So I'll start us off. So Wordle, we talked about Wordle last week, and our wish or our prediction came true. It was given to Donald Trump, James Austin Johnson playing Trump, and he had a Wordle that was unsurprisingly all about Donald Trump. And it was a little bit controversial because there were a few errors in the Wordle. So the hardcore Wordle fans out there were a little bit up in arms about it, but we did discuss it. So that felt really, really fun to see, and it was a good way to do it.
Yes, and another hit that we had from our episode of Hollywood Dish 2 weeks ago is they had Pete Davidson playing Novak Djokovic in the cold open. It was very Pete Davidson, as always. No matter what character he plays, we see a little bit of himself, but it was really fun to see. I was surprised it wasn't in the episode right after our Hollywood Dish 2 episodes ago, but I mean, we hit the nail on the head with that there would be an impression, and it was in the cold open on this weekend's episode.
Yes, and then another one, it was the first episode, I think, where we did not talk about this, and of course, it is the episode where it comes up on SNL, so not quite so lucky for us, but Bowen Yang, this was my favorite part of the entire episode. Bowen Yang slips in as Chen Bao on Update, a little "What's up, Che Diaz?" And so he calls Che Diaz, and that's the type of reference that I just love Bowen for so much, because he knew that 90% probably of the audience was gonna either fly over their heads, or they were gonna be like, well, what is that? But the 10% that got that joke got it, and it hit us to our core. So I was just so excited, and that's one of the many reasons I love Bowen, is he brings those types of references that it's like he doesn't care if some people aren't going to get it. And Che joked that he didn't get it, and I love him for that. I love that he brought that joke, because it's amazing. And for reference, so it's about a
Yeah.
character on, I should explain what it is. It's a
I was going to
character
say there's
on
90% of people that have no clue what the reference
yeah.
is.
They're like, I'm just really trying to gatekeep this, I guess, from the
Yeah,
90%, but I'll explain. I'll indulge. So it's
fair.
so Che Diaz is a queer non-binary character on the Sex and the City reboot called And Just Like That. And they are a love interest, spoiler alert, but I think everybody who's ever going to watch the show already knows by now. So I feel not bad spoiling this. So Che is both a love interest for Miranda, and also the boss and co-host, podcast co-host, of Carrie Bradshaw. So they play a really big role in this reboot, and they've become kind of a pop culture phenomenon. And it was just really cool to see Bowen acknowledge that on Saturday.
Yeah, and for any Grey's Anatomy fans that don't watch Sex and the City, Che Diaz is also Dr. Callie Torres, and it's just a bunch of worlds all coming together. And I mean, I was so excited to see them on my screen to begin with, but Callie Torres is one of the best on Grey's Anatomy, and I'm really happy that Sasha Ramirez has an opportunity to play such an important role in pop culture once again. And a few misses is, I know in our prediction segment, we keep saying Jamie Lynn Spears and Britney Spears, and we're predicting that maybe Heidi and Chloe Fineman would be really involved in some sort of sketch or appearance on Weekend Update. But again, it's been 2 weeks of us discussing all the drama on Hollywood Dish, and we have not seen any Britney and Jamie Lynn Spears on SNL. And it's surprising to me, because we have Chloe Fineman, who does such a good Britney. Why wouldn't they want to utilize this when it's all up in the news? But who's to say? Maybe this weekend's episode.
Yep, I think we're gonna see it somehow, some way, eventually. Another one that we didn't see that we've been talking about is, of course, Kanye, or Ye, as if you know, every episode it comes up here that Kanye is legally now just Ye, 2 letters. So we haven't gotten much on the Kanye West Pete Davidson feud, if you want to call it that. Kanye dropped a song with lyrics talking about Not so nice, not very much in favor of Pete Davidson last week, and of course Pete Davidson and Kim Kardashian are still going strong. So we're just waiting patiently for an acknowledgement of that, and I'm sure when we get it, it's going to be pretty interesting. I don't know when it'll be, but we're going to definitely keep talking about it here. So
Yeah.
that's a pretty big
And
one.
Ye survived a crash so he could beat Pete Davidson's ass. And I think they could do so much with this on SNL. So I'm still holding hope because I mean Pete Davidson is there. So why wouldn't we? But I'm really intrigued as to why they're not doing it. I think it could be something like if Pete and Kim are so serious, it might be a thing that she's like, please don't joke about him on SNL. And I don't know who's to say. But
Who's to
that was our
say?
hit and miss segment. And at the end of each episode, we'll still say our predictions for this week, and we'll be dropping little tidbits in between each story as to how we could see it could relate to SNL. But we thought this would be fun as kind of like our score and our grade keeper to see like how well we did here. And if you have any predictions, please write in the chat. And if there were any other hit or misses that we forgot to talk about, please feel free and say it in the chat. And also welcome to everyone in the chat. And
Yes.
we'll be reading alongside, so engage.
Exactly. And then for anybody, any podcast listeners, we air this live on YouTube on Thursdays. Right now, Thursdays at 8 p.m. on SNL On Week. So when we refer to the chat, we are talking about our live YouTube audience. So if you ever want to join us there, that's where we premiere the show, and it's really fun to engage with the chat. So if you're an audio listener, just something fun to be aware of, so you don't have FOMO about whenever we say chat. That's what we mean. But anyways, so getting into our first story, usually we do a cold open segment at the top of the show. Today we're gonna fuse that political stuff into the stories that we have. So if that's your jam, that's what you're here for. Fear not, we're gonna get there. But we're gonna mostly keep it light with the pop culture stuff, and we're thinking we'll see how our batting average goes, because the pop culture stuff is a bit of a lower hit rate than compared to miss rate. So because there's just more variety to cover. But we're going to get into our first story, and that is a little Taylor Swift news. We have not really talked about Taylor Swift on the show, and I think that's because Taylor Swift had probably her biggest career moment that she's had in quite a few years in November, and then we started the show right after that. So for a huge A+ list celebrity, this is pretty much our first story on her, and that is in an interview over the weekend. Damon Albarn, who's an English singer and musician, he's the frontman and primary lyricist for Blur, which is a rock band, and also the co-founder, lead vocalist, primary songwriter, etc., of the virtual band Gorillaz. So niche, but also famous. If you know him, you know him, I guess. I did not know any idea who this guy was, but apparently Taylor Swift did. So he basically called her out for not writing her own songs. And he said, just to quote, I know what co-writing is. Co-writing is very different to writing. I'm not hating on anybody. I'm just saying there's a big difference between a songwriter and songwriter who co-writes. He compared Swift to Billie Eilish, and he called her a really interesting songwriter, and then was just really putting Taylor Swift down by comparing her to Billie Eilish and calling Billie Eilish more of a songwriter, even though Billie Eilish famously collaborates with her brother. So you're putting down Taylor Swift because she co-writes, and then you're comparing her to someone who famously co-collaborates and all of that kind of thing. And then Taylor Swift had a pretty big response that got a lot more attention than the original comment, because Taylor Swift is one of the most famous people in the world. She said, I was such a big fan of yours until I saw this. I write all of my own songs. Your hot take is completely false and so damaging. You don't have to like my songs, but it's really effed up. She did spell it out in her tweet. Effed up to try and discredit my writing. Wow. And then she also clarified in another tweet that she did, in fact, write that tweet all by herself. So this is a pretty big story, I think, just because Taylor Swift is known, and she likes to be known above all else, for being a lyricist. So that's, I think, why this story carried so much weight for her, and her fans were so up in arms about it. What do you think, Rebecca?
So, I mean, Sandrine in the chat worded it perfectly. How dumb can you be at this point to publicly slander Taylor Swift? And I think that Damon is just is kind of out of bounds here. There's a lot you could say about Taylor Swift, especially in her many years of being really famous, just as you can for a lot of other celebrities. But if the one thing you want to drag her about is not being a songwriter because she collaborates, that is saying that anyone that collaborates to do anything is not valid for their work. So you have to be work solely when the best work is teamwork. So I think that that is was just really stupid and kind of weird and like kind of attention seeky on his part. Like, what is the purpose of saying this? Weird. At the same time, on the other hand, I'm not the biggest Taylor Swift fan. Like as a human being, her music's good. Don't get me wrong. Her lyrics are great. She's a lyricist, but I do think her responding to this, definitely she wrote it herself because no PR team would allow her to do this. That Damon is not on Taylor Swift's level. So her reacting to this and responding to it is only going to make like 10 times a bigger deal about this. And that's kind of my qualm with Taylor Swift is like nothing can be a little thing with her. It's either all or nothing. And one hate tweet, I mean, as a celebrity, I'm sure you get so many, which is not right. You should never, if you're going to say it, say it to her face. But at the same time, it's like you get caught up on one thing, and this would not be a huge news story. And there wouldn't be debate now online. Like if I came on here and said, I don't think she's a lyricist for co writing with someone, that conversation would never have been in question unless she brought attention to this. So I do think that's really weird. And maybe it's because she like hasn't been in the news lately and just kind of bored. Like that's the only reason I think. And I do agree she wrote it herself because no PR team will let her do that.
Yeah. It's a weird one, but I mean, that was if anything, like, it was good PR for that guy because I had no idea who he was, and now I do. So that's always fascinating to me how when you are not super famous, bad press is good press and no press is bad press, and I think this is probably an example of that because now there are a lot more Google searches for that guy's name, and they're beforehand, like, I mean, I certainly was not Googling him,
I
and
have
now I
no
am.
clue.
But anyway, that's that story, and then I think you have another one, and I think our betting, I think we're gonna have a good odds with this story.
Yes. So David Ortiz, also known as Big Papi, was elected to the Baseball Hall of Fame on the first ballot. In their batter's box, some of the biggest moments in October history is Boston Red Sox slugger David Ortiz has presence even larger than his 6'3", 230-pound frame. And it's the man known as Big Papi, and he will now have a presence in the National Baseball Hall of Fame class of 2022. He was the lone player elected into the Hall of Fame from the vote of the Baseball Writers Association of America. This was unveiled on Tuesday night on MLB Network. And I mean, I personally I wouldn't really know who Big Papi was because of all sports, baseball, I don't watch probably the most. But I think the reason why we're talking about this today is because Keenan playing Big Papi on Weekend Update as a recurring character. And I mean, if this is anything, we need to see Keenan as Big Papi again. Nicole, what do you think about this?
Yes, yes. This is one of his biggest recurring characters that he's done over the years, and one of the most consistent. I'm also not a huge sports person, but I feel like this is when I think of Keaton's recurring characters, this is maybe even the first one that comes to mind. And so I think most people would agree it's like top three, top five. So
Mhm.
it's although on the other hand, I think it's so obvious that like maybe they won't do it and they'll kind of subvert our expectations and do other things at update. Last week on update, which was it was the longest update of season 47
Ever.
so far. Also ever. Well, not according
Not
like not
factually.
not that we can confirm. Yes. But it felt like ever, and it was the longest of season 47, and it was three pretty much all of them were recurring characters with the exception of three guys who just bought a boat. That was a slight rendition on a recurring character.
Spinoff.
But yes, a spinoff, exactly. The Che Diaz version, the update. So it was three pretty much recurring characters, and I wouldn't be surprised if we don't get it, just because like there's so much going on as always, and we it's what we're expecting. Maybe we'll get Ortiz in the cold open if we do another sort of like rotating, like round robin. That's not the phrase at all that is accurate, but like a kind of cold open that's jam packed with lots of things going on. So I could see Big Poppy popping up right there. That could work for me. But
Yeah.
my prediction is that our expectations are going to get subverted, and we are actually not going to see him on the update desk, because it's also like, how much can we
Yeah.
really say?
Well, I gotta be honest, I have no clue David Ortiz as a human being. I don't know what he's like. I've never seen him interviewed or even probably play a game of baseball. And I only equate him to Keenan as Big Papi.
Yeah.
I literally have no clue who David Ortiz is. And I think that's what's so great about SNL is they could take just not as known as a public figure to everyone. So I mean, like, I'm not saying that people don't know who he is. Definitely, if he's inducted to the Baseball Hall of Fame, but we don't know who he is. And I don't even know what he looks like. I just see Keenan's face in my head. So a really
Mhm.
exciting story. And I mean, a big congrats to David Ortiz for getting inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame. That's, to my knowledge, a really big deal. So
Yes.
congrats
Yes.
on that.
I think we can infer based on little information that it's a big deal.
Context clues. Context clues
Context
do say.
clues. Smart girls. We're smart. We could figure it out. Or we at least we like to think we're smart. You're a lot smarter than me. But yeah, so that's a story that we're gonna, in some capacity, they'll have to address it, but I would just be kind
Yeah.
of curious to see how they do it. Moving on to our next story. This one is about the Variety Actors on Actors new season of interviews or one-on-one conversations. And this is something I'm so fascinated by. All the different entertainment outlets that do these different like interviews during award season, especially, and when they do collaborations between different performers. The Hollywood Reporter does those roundtables, and Variety does the Actors on Actors. And they announced the lineup for what is season 15 that they're doing, and I'm going to read out just a few of the ones that are pretty interesting to me. That it's a pretty long lineup, but one of the most interesting is Ariana DeBose and Simu Liu are paired to season 47 SNL hosts. I would bet that they
Yeah.
will be talking about their experiences on SNL when they have their conversation. I will be tuning in for that one. Another one is Lady Gaga with mystery guest. I don't think the mystery guest has been revealed as of when we're live right now, and that's the only one that was premiered or announced as mystery guest. I feel like it could be Tony Bennett. And then yeah. What do you think?
Don't think it'll be Tony Bennett.
Okay, maybe I'm
I
pushing
think
it.
I think his days in the spotlight, as much as like I would love to see it in terms of interviewing and all that, I don't really see him doing that. I mean, performing, he's brilliant and such a great performer, but I don't really know. They also just did such a big special together that I don't really know they would bring Tony Bennett onto something on this. Sorry to interrupt. I just didn't want to lose my train of thought
Here,
there.
I'll do one at a time. I'll announce one at a time, and I'll ask
Yes.
you for your take.
I also kind of have an opinion on this actors on actors in general.
Explain.
So don't get me wrong, I'm going to be watching. However, I think having actors interview other actors and vice versa is obviously amazing for PR, and like it's going to get people to want to tune in because it doubles their chances of people being a fan of one of the two actors there.
Right.
However, I think interviewers and all of these people are not as popular, not as famous as the actors there. So taking away a role for someone who is less well known to really get their chance in the spotlight and to kind of take that opportunity away, it's kind of like a rich get richer type of situation where it's like, okay, yes, the actors are just only getting more and more famous and doing more gigs and doing all of this, when you could take someone who really isn't well known and is trying to start their career, and they could be interviewing Lady Gaga, which would be the biggest thing for them if they're brand new. But instead, we're having mystery guests interview Lady Gaga, who I'm sure if they're mystery guests, it's not going to be someone new onto the scene. So yes, I love the concept, but I do think like there are only so many roles and opportunities for people that are newer into the scene, like a bunch of interviewers in this situation. So I know a lot of people get started on the red carpet, for example, and then they become public figures based off that. So having people have the chance to interview Ariana DeBois, like it's DeBois? Did I make her French? I made her French.
You did. You did.
And I I don't know. I think it's entertaining, but I definitely think it's a missed opportunity to give a new face, not a
That's
place.
fair. Yeah, I think it honestly, it's just like if that were the case, it wouldn't be as exciting of a concept. So, for example, the Hollywood Reporter roundtables, it's exciting because it's different people talking to each other. And so, I think if it were just standard interviews with a an interviewer from E News or somebody like that, a reporter, a journalist, it would just be a little bit different. And it wouldn't be as much of like a story of like, oh, who's going to be interviewing who. And I know, like, for me, when it was announced, I was guessing like who's going to be paired together. I guessed wrongfully um the Davidson and Nicholas Braun together. I was like, oh, they're going to do that to us,
Oh
those
my
two.
God, that's your fantasy. You were
I know.
manifesting it. You didn't actually think that would be a thing.
I know,
There's
I was
no way.
manifesting, but it just would have been insane, like, it would have broken the internet, having those 2 talk to each other, it would have been crazy, but it didn't happen. Neither of them are on the rundown. I'll give a few more, and then we'll move to another story. So this one is very interesting. Nicole Kidman and Kristen Stewart were paired together, and theirs, I think, is already out, so I have to listen to it. It came out today, I think, and they are, going head to head for the Oscar, so I'm pretty intrigued that they were paired together. I'd say Nicole Kidman, Kristen Stewart, and Lady Gaga's up there too. But I'm thinking right now, Nicole and Kristen are the 2 most likely to win it. That's every like betting anything I've seen. There's pretty much one of those 2, and so I wonder if there's a little competitive energy in the air with that interview because they're doing press competing for the same award right now. So for them to be interviewing each
Yeah.
other during that time is like a little, I don't know, a little crazy.
Yes, I do think that, I mean, that's a genius pairing, and I cannot wait to tune into that. I cannot say anything about Spencer at all because I didn't watch it, but being the Ricardos, I mean, Nicole Kidman always just comes through with her great acting skills and a bad wig every time. And I think I don't know if they'd be competing. They would be mutually competing as much as there would be more pressure on Kristen Stewart. Nicole Kidman is Nicole Kidman. That is someone she's a staple in like just pop culture and the world and any big role. I mean, Lucy is a major role, and to give it to Nicole Kidman, I mean, didn't make sense to a lot of people at first, but obviously she pulled through and she did such a good job. So I think that would be more pressure for actually Kristen Stewart, who, yes, she's been in a ton of things, but like Bella Swan was not getting an Oscar for her performance or lack thereof performance. So
Yeah.
I think that would probably be more of a one-sided. If I were Kristen Stewart, I'd literally be like shitting my pants talking to Nicole Kidman. So that's my opinion, but I'm probably most excited to hear that pairing and what they're going to talk about.
Yeah, well, it's already out, so, after you're done with this, don't turn this
Yeah.
off, stick around, and then go look at that and tell us what you think. Okay, I'm gonna choose one more. They're really like, go look at this list because there's so many that we could talk about. I'll offer one more, to discuss. Ooh, it's tough. Okay, this one I think what could have been very predictable given they're both kinda having a moment. Andrew Garfield and Rachel Zegler were paired, and this Rachel Zegler's been under a little bit of fire lately for her. She did an impression of Britney Spears message, like her notes app message or her text or something to Jamie Lynn Spears. She read it as if it were a dramatic monologue audition for like a play or for a role in a movie. And it was just sort of, it didn't really pass the vibe check, is the only way I can describe it. It wasn't like, oh, you're canceled. It was just like, oh, you might have misread the situation a little bit, Rachel. Maybe you do need a little bit of checking with your team before you post something like this. So
Yeah.
and then Andrew Garfield is having such a moment. So they're both kind of like it just fits. Like I feel like they have kind of similar fan bases. Garfield's being a bit bigger and more established, but I feel like the same people are kind of invested in both of them right now, and especially the musical theater community because they're
Mhm.
both up for awards in musical films. So it's definitely there's a lot of synergy there. What do you think?
Um, I mean, just I think I have feelings for Andrew Garfield, so I'm
Yes.
really excited to hear him on any platform, like love interest feelings. Like I like him,
Yes.
and
Yes.
I think I mean I'm really excited to hear him talk. Rachel Zegler's wasn't canceled. It was more of just like a read the room. But that's
Exactly.
expected. She's so young and newer into the scene that like let this be the worst thing she does. I really hope that. And I do see like a really
Yes.
huge career for her in the future. But that's a great pairing. I mean, they definitely have a lot to talk about.
Yep.
Obviously.
All right, I'm gonna read off a few more, and then we're gonna get
Okay.
into the other story. Okay, just so everybody's kind of aware of different ones happening. So Jessica Chastain and Rita Moreno, pretty good one. Penelope Cruz and Benedict Cumberbatch, Jamie Dornan and Kirsten Dunst, Oscar Isaac and Jared Leto, Marlee Matlin and Bradley Whitford, and who else? Javier Bardem and Daniel Craig, Mahershala Ali and Bradley Cooper, and Ingenue Ellis and Regina King. And I think that is all the ones that have been announced. So I think that's a pretty exciting lineup. Back to
Yeah,
SNL,
it's
I would
stacked.
say about 90% of these people have hosted SNL. So that's some pretty good synergy there. Maybe even
Yeah, I mean,
95%. Pretty almost everybody on this list has hosted or cameoed on
yeah.
SNL, which is pretty cool.
So, I mean, it's a stacked lineup, and
Yes.
SNL always has a stacked lineup. So, I'm not
There
surprised
we
by
go.
such a strong correlation between hosts and appearances on SNL and people that are doing the actors and actors interview. But I'm just really excited to keep hearing these. And are there more than announced? Like, are they expecting to announce more? I'm just curious. I know you don't
Probably
work for
not. I
Variety.
think
Okay.
I do not. I do not. I'm not undercover. But
Mm,
yeah, I think that's it. It's their season 15. I didn't even know they were tracking it in terms of seasons, but
me
that's
neither.
everybody on the Variety press release, pretty much, or article announcement. Um, so yeah, and it's a fun time. There's mostly Oscar competitors,
Yeah.
and then yeah, it's pretty much all people who are in movies more so than TV because that's the time. We're about to kick off Oscar really hardcore Oscar campaign season. The nominations are announced in a week and a half in early February, and then the awards, the ceremony will be in late March. So this is their
Mm.
time to be putting their name out there saying nominate me, and then pretty soon it's going to be their time to say pick me. So it's an I
Pick
love
me.
Oscar season. Pick
Choose
me,
me.
choose me,
Love me.
choose
Wow, two
me.
Grays references. This
I
is
know,
big
and
for me.
I almost did a third. You know what? We're gonna go number 3 and then next story. There's been so much Grey's nostalgia because Eric Dane in Euphoria is especially after
Nostalgia?
I mean, maybe it's more like
Nostalgia or like
trauma.
nightmares? Yeah.
Nightmares, nightmares. His love interest from high school. Spoiler alert about Euphoria, but again, if you're gonna watch Euphoria, you have probably already seen this. So,
Already seen it.
uh, yeah. So his love interest from high school in a flashback, his name is Derek, and the character who Eric Dane plays is Cal. But for Grey's Anatomy fans, Derek
It's
was a great bromance was McDreamy, aka Derek, and McSteamy, which was Eric Dane's character. Um, and
yeah,
it's
who's
just
now
they knew what they were
McCreepy in
doing.
Euphoria. So
Mhm. Big time, big
so
time.
I mean, I clocked that reference right away and I was just happy. I'm assuming it
Yeah.
was intentional. It'd be
Oh,
really
it had
hard
to
for them to
be.
just not. But I love that. I thought that was great and it just made me happy. In
Yep,
such a disturbing setting. You always have to keep that
exactly.
in mind. But yeah,
Yes.
to move on to the next story, I don't know how many of you are Bravo fans. If you are, please write in the chat. I'm genuinely curious because I could talk about Bravo for hours, but I'm not sure how many people are really interested in hearing it. This story is way past the Bravoverse and just become really mainstream pop culture news. So, Real Housewife of Salt Lake City star Jenny Nguyen speaks out after being fired for past racially insensitive posts. So, for some background, Jenny Nguyen is a new cast member on season 2 of Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, and she didn't really bring much to the season, to be quite honest. So, like, there are no even stories or references that I really think you would know her for this season of Salt Lake City. I think the two main things are there was a huge scene about her husband asking her to be a sister wife, and they went through the drama and the conversations regarding that. And then the other thing that I will really be missing after she's got fired are she's these two kids, and like I don't know what she did to them to make them so like the golden children. Like she'll be cooking in the kitchen and like her daughter will walk in and say, "Mama, what you doing?" She's like, "I'm making dinner. Want to help?" And the girl's like, "Let me wash my hands," and comes over and helps. And then her son will walk in and be like, "What are you guys doing in here? What are we making?" And then they'll be like, "We're making Brussels sprouts. Want to help?" And he's like, "I do love my vegetables." Goes, washes his hands and pops in and helps. And it's such a weird thing to be watching, but also entertaining. However, it was discovered now they're done filming all of season 2. So this won't really be discussed unless it's discussed by the other cast members. She's fired from season 3 and every episode. But this Facebook account of hers was discovered from 2020 where there was a lot of racist posts and a lot of stuff regarding the Black Lives Matter movement and a lot of the protesting then, a lot of like graphics and memes about hurting and injuring rioters and doing a bunch of things, protesters, not rioters, and a lot of just insensitive content. The account she claimed was deleted, and while she did take full responsibility for everything that was being posted on the account, she apologized or made a statement on her Instagram story a couple days ago. She went live on Instagram to record and kind of try and clear her name a little more and also apologize. She did take responsibility for all the actions, but she phrased it in the aspect of like, I have a huge social media team. I don't control everything here, but again, if it's under my name, it's there. And honestly, I don't know how big of a social media team she's having. If this was before she was even cast on Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, a few of the other cast members have spoken out about it too. So no one is defending her online. Lisa Barlow, who's her connection to this season, which they always do, came out and spoke. And even Jen Shaw, who I'm sure if you have if you're on social media, you've heard that name. And even Jen Shaw is saying that she's doing things messed up and she's being hunted down by the FBI. I think you're muted. The tables have turned.
I am muted. The tables have turned.
Ooh,
I was gonna
that's my
say
thing.
I know. Just do like a little briefer on Jen Shaw for anybody who's not aware of all that crazy stuff going on with her.
Yeah. So Jen Shaw is another member of Real Housewives of Salt Lake City that was arrested and caught by the FBI for, long story short, she was calling people and doing telemarketing scams and taking people's money. Like, it's a whole deep dive. We can go into it. And even like, if you want more details, you could hit me up on social media because I can go into it. But that's more old news in the situation. But Jenny Wen is fired. And thank you, Bravo, for doing that. But Jen Shaw is also a criminal, a public known criminal.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, okay, season 3, come on. So there's also been a lot of chatter online like, yes, it's great and Jenny deserves to be fired. Don't get me wrong, but a lot of other housewives and Bravo stars deserve to get fired as well. So, Nicole, I know you don't
Yeah.
watch Salt Lake City, but I'm curious what your thoughts are on this.
Yes, I spiritually identify as a Real Housewives fan and a Bravo girl, but I just haven't put in the time to really in earnest be a fan. I just have watched a lot of it here and there, but not in the way that I really need to in order to really be a fan. But I do know that Salt Lake City had a really good first season, and it was on track, and maybe still is, to be one of the core solid franchises for Real Housewives. Even though it was a newer one, it just seemed like it had a lot of potential. And then a lot of stuff is going down. I think with Jenny Wen, it's just it kind of points to the fact that a lot of Real Housewives, it doesn't feel so dissimilar from a lot of the other housewives. I saw a tweet that was like, a good thing Ramona Singer joined Real Housewives before she got Facebook. And for anyone who doesn't know, Ramona Singer is the longest standing, right, Real Housewife of New York, who's been there since the beginning, pretty much all the way through. And she just, I mean, the Real Housewives is one of the last frontiers of mainstream media, TV entertainment, where like you can kind of be like that and still get away with it. She just like is very like outright and like
Yeah.
I'll just put it, she gets away with a lot of things that I am surprised that she keeps getting away with. And I'm sure if she had a Facebook before she joined, she would have things would have been dug up on her, and I'll leave it at that. So with Jenny Wen,
Yeah.
it's just like, it's crazy, and it's not like things are getting dug up from 2013. It's like it was very recent, and I don't think Bravo really background checks, or if they do, they let things slide, and maybe it's good press to let things slide and let the fans dig this up themselves. I'm sure you can kind of weigh the pros and cons of
Mhm.
having, like, hiring someone like that and signing the contracts and having them represent you, and then having them actually turn out to be maybe not what you want to represent as a company and as a business.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if they're gonna change their ways, but Bravo did make a statement saying that they will look harder next time. This could not have been that difficult to find. Like, and it's
No.
politics aside, like you should not be scrutinized for your beliefs and should not be fired for your beliefs. But this wasn't about her political beliefs, which she did make the point to say that she stands true to her politics, and that's not what she's taking back or apologizing for. And no one should be fired over their political stance. But it was the racist content that was being posted that was just so like I was like really upset reading through all of the screenshots because it was like so horrible. And I'm like, this was 2020. This wasn't back then. And I know it's never acceptable, but at the same time, I don't think in 2010 we were thinking like, oh, in the 10 years from now, people will be able to see the content I'm posting. And nowadays, you know that whatever you post online, especially as a public figure, will be dug up. So I think what you're saying about Ramona is completely true. And that tweet was funny. But yeah, really, really big in the Bravoverse. I hope this doesn't impact Real Housewives of Salt Lake City because, quite honestly, Jenny brought nothing to the show. So I'm not upset to see
Mhm.
her go, and I wouldn't have been upset to see her go, and now I'm happy she's leaving. Is how I'll phrase
Yes.
it.
So that's that. Let us know if you like the Bravo news, because I know Rebecca could go on and on about it, and I would be happy to listen and give my input. I am a huge Andy Cohen fan and watch What Happens Live, so that's where I
Hmm.
get a lot of my Bravo info is,
Yeah.
just watching everybody. All basically how Watch What Happens Live works is a large chunk of the guests are Bravo celebrities, reality stars. So it's kind of a cool
Hmm.
model. Is Andy's like this representative of Bravo, and then his show is it's like a good little baseline for people who just kinda wanna dip their toes in and see what the Bravoverse is all about. Quick shout out to Lucas Gage's appearance on Watch Happens Live a few days ago. Just go Google it. It was really funny, and I will leave it at that 'cause he's from The White
Yeah.
Lotus and Euphoria, and he was really funny, and
It was
I
so
enjoyed it.
funny.
He was really funny, yeah, so just look it up and, thank me later. Okay, moving right along. This is going to be a little bit of our political news, just infused into our whole lineup right here. News infused. That could be the name of something. We'll play with that. News infused.
Yeah, that's
I
good.
like that.
Patent
Yeah,
it.
yeah. Yeah, we're gonna copyright that one. So we've got some Supreme Court news, which does not happen often because the Supreme Court doesn't really change that much. It does not make the news all that much, except when huge cases are coming. You know, the justices themselves don't. They're not headline grabby like politicians. They're really famously people who try to keep it very by the book, all that stuff. Say what you want about everybody on the court, but it's just famously something that you're not like hearing a bunch of stories about the justices all the time. It's like it's very different from being any other type of public figure in Washington and in politics and government, etc. So it's different when we hear these names. So Stephen Breyer, who has been on the court for almost 28 years, has announced that he's going to step down at the end of this term, which will be at the end of the summer. And so he said he will not be stepping down until President Biden uh, chooses the successor, pretty much. And so President Biden has announced that he's committed to having a black woman on the court, which would be really historic and important. And if the Supreme Court is supposed to represent the American people and all of us and represent diversity in all different forms, it would be really amazing to have a black woman on because it's been so many white men and we've had more women in recent decades, which is amazing. But then I just think to have more diversity and have a voice that we haven't had on the Supreme Court would be really, really awesome. So I'm excited and I'm glad that Stephen Breyer is kind of honoring the commitment to uh, kind of want to let President Biden run the course of making his decisions before he steps down because there were a few years ago, if you recall, there was some kind of messiness with the Supreme Court and someone who was supposed to be named, and then there was a new president and it didn't happen, and so it feels like everybody involved is trying to really stick to the typical course of action here.
Yeah, I mean, this is just all around exciting. I mean, as Biden put it, he's ready for a long overdue pick of Black female justice. And that itself, I mean, is just amazing. And as you worded it so perfectly, I really don't have much more to add besides the fact that I'm just really happy about this. But the Supreme Justice is supposed to make decisions for Americans, and not having every person represented, race, gender, beliefs. It's not the Americans. It's like old white men that are making decisions for every person that they don't necessarily relate to or understand what's going on. So I mean, I'm happy Biden is making this decision, and this is going to be just really exciting and hopefully a step into the right direction in the future.
Word. Okay, those
Word. That's that
yes.
on that.
That's on that.
So those were our 5 big stories from today. Yes, it was an exciting news week this week. So there were not a lack of stories. If anything, we had to do some chopping. But so that's what brings us to the rapid fire round. While we don't want to dive that deep into every story, there's a lot more news to talk about. So we're going to each give, I think, one rapid fire story. I don't know if Nicole thinks of one of this. I don't know if any suggestions, but what I'm going to talk about, just kick off the rapid fire round, is Celebrity Big Brother season 3 cast was revealed last night. If you have been seeing on Twitter or Reddit that the cast was actually been announced for 2 weeks, the big predictions were there were some overlaps, but just were wrong. Like they were not accurate predictions besides a few people on the list. But I will quickly just list off the 11, and then Nicole and I could each pick a few that we want to discuss. So the 11 house guests are former NBA player Lamar Odom, NSYNC singer Chris Kirkpatrick, Real Housewife of Atlanta star Cynthia Bailey, former Saturday Night Live comedian, ding ding, Chris Kattan, Olympic figure skater Mirari Nagasu, singer and dancer Todrick Hall, former Real Housewives of Beverly Hills star Teddy Mellencamp, model and reality star Shannon Moekler, Different Strokes star Todd Bridges, former UFC champion Misha Tate, and Queer Eye star Carson Kressley. And that's the season 3 cast for Celebrity Big Brother. Nicole, who stood out to you in that list and why?
I've got a few, and I think the obvious one would be Chris Kattan, SNL alum. That's going to be pretty cool. I mean, he got into a little bit of trouble for an opinion about wearing a mask on a plane about a year ago. So I'm imagining that blew over, and he's honoring whatever precautions he has to take in order to be on the show and be on a set like this. So that's good to know. And then the other one I really want to get into is Shannon Moekler, and it wouldn't
That's
be
not who I thought you were saying.
Who do you think
I don't know.
say?
I thought I made an internal bet. I thought you were going to say Lamar Odom.
Oh, well, it'd be the same reason I would bring up both of them, because it wouldn't be an episode of Hollywood Dish if we didn't talk about people who are adjacent somehow 2 or 3 degrees of separation away from the Kardashians.
We need to get like a dinger, like
yes,
some sound effect of a bell, where we just like ding every time it's something that we frequently talk about, like the Kardashians. But you said the K. You said the K name, so
bing,
yes.
Bing, bing, bing. And Shannon Moekler was married to Travis Barker, aka the fiance of Kourtney Kardashian. And so when all the Kourtney and Travis stuff, Shanna has been in the news about just like people have been kind of overanalyzing her reactions to things, and she has had some opinions. And so I would say in the last few years, that is what she is most famous for, is her reactions to, not that they've even been that much, but just she's most famous for people wanting to see what she has to say about Travis Barker and Kourtney Kardashian, which is not really the happiest thing to be known for right now, but that's, I think, why her name has been back up in the news. And so it's a very interesting decision. And also to have Shannon Moekler and Lamar Odom together. Lamar Odom, who famously was with Khloe Kardashian years ago, and he he's had a lot of just kind of stuff happen to him in his personal life over
Mhm.
the years, and he a lot of stuff has happened. So it's pretty interesting that these two are on together. I'm sure
Yeah.
that will be a storyline.
Definitely. And the two ones my eyes drew to were Teddy Mellencamp's daughter of John Mellencamp, the singer, is a former Real Housewives of Beverly Hills star, and she has a big health and diet line also. So all in with Teddy Mellencamp, which is pretty extreme. If you look it up, it's all of her work has gone into that, and it's like her passion project. But Teddy Mellencamp was fired from the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills for being boring. Like, literally just boring. So why would she get a gig like Celebrity Big Brother? I don't know. I mean, I don't have any opinion against her. I actually didn't mind her when she was on the show, but maybe it's because she didn't cause any drama because she literally was boring. So that'll
Mhm.
be interesting. Maybe she'll just let loose. That would be really fun to watch, but I doubt it. And the other two that I'm joining together as one are dancer Todrick Hall and singer, and Queer Eye star Carson Kressley. That's what they're most known for, and Todrick Hall is also really known for. Spoiler alert, but it was last season, winning the Masked Singer. So did he win? Come in second place. Second place. I'm spreading rumors. I watched
Probably
the Masked
second.
Singer like as religiously as I watched Jeopardy. So second
Oh,
place,
probably, yeah.
maybe. I don't know. I mean, his performances were
He was the runner-up, season 6
runner up.
runner-up.
Yeah. Season 6. So yeah, so he was just on The Masked Singer. And they're also both judges on RuPaul's Drag Race. They're like
Mm.
in the family there that they're on a bunch of episodes, and they know each other. So that'll also be interesting that they're coming in knowing each other. And I mean, Carson Kressley is hysterical. I think he's so funny. And Todrick, although has some controversy in his life to begin with, is also entertaining on television. So that'll be fun to watch, and obviously just so close to home for me to watch my favorite TV shows on another TV show. So I think, yeah, that's Celebrity Big Brother. And if you're interested, look up like the revealed cast from a few weeks ago, because it's just funny how like certain the
It's so
internet was with
funny.
the super cast. So yeah, take a look at that. And Nicole, what is your rapid fire? Although that was not quick.
Yes.
Uh,
Yes. It's fine, and I actually think I'm gonna watch Celebrity Big Brother, which I haven't seen
me
before. I'm
too.
gonna watch the
Me
first one.
too.
So we're
I'm
gonna break it
down.
down on here if we watch it. I'd be really curious to see how that show works. I know people love it, and
Yeah.
it has a very specific way of being produced, and so if anything, I'm just very curious to analyze that. So
Yeah.
that is not the last that you hear from Celebrity Big Brother on this show. We will cover it when it happens. My rapid fire is once again, bing, 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 Kardashian adjacent news. And that is that Kanye West, and in this article I'm looking at from Pitchfork, he is referred to as Kanye West. Some places are very strict on that Ye. They are just his name is Ye now. We don't know Kanye West anymore, but Pitchfork is going Kanye West full send. So Kanye West has announced Donda 2 is a new album, and he had Donda 1 released last year, and Donda 2 will be it's supposed to be released on February 22nd and be executive produced by Future. And if you know anything about Kanye West, particularly in the last 6-7 years, you know that he is pretty notorious for having his albums not come out on the day or the week or the month that he says they will in his first announcements of things. So I'm treating this as a very soft announcement. February 22, in my head, it's like March 17th. That's like where my ballpark is, but maybe he'll prove
Yeah.
me wrong. I will say with Kanye, and he's also headlining Coachella, right?
Yes.
With
Yes.
Billie Eilish and who else is it? It's
I'm
a lot
not
of
blanking
a lot of
out.
big
I'm
people.
going. A lot of
Those
big
are
people, but yeah,
yeah.
that's the point I was gonna make about Coachella is like I actually am really excited about this because I really do like Kanye's music. I'm a pretty big like Kanye fan musically, especially
Mhm.
like Graduation and more old school Kanye, but I didn't love Donda 1. I just didn't think it was great. So I kind of was like, obviously I'm gonna go watch him at Coachella more for like the bit and see like what he's gonna do on stage. But I'm excited for another album and hopefully Donda 2. it's not in the same realm as Donda ones. So hopefully they're not that related, and it could be a little different and make me more excited to see him.
Yes, and also just the third person that we forgot was the one and only Harry Styles.
Oh
So
yeah, how
I
did we
can't believe we
forget that?
forgot. I don't know. I think just the news has been more centered on Billy and Ye, which is a little crazy. I guess Harry Styles had a
Yeah,
really fun tour in the fall, and he's been a
I
little bit more
know.
low key the last 2 months or so. But
Yeah,
he'll be back for Coachella, and you'll be
yes.
there. You'll let us all know how it goes.
Yeah,
So yeah,
that'll be
yeah,
exciting. I don't know. I
yeah,
think I'm excited to see what the album is. I mean, if it's anything like his most recent feature on a song, I think it might be pretty entertaining and have some lyrics that we'll be talking about in Hollywood Dish.
yes. I mean, it feels like a pretty quick announcement, so I feel like it's gonna be. I feel like it's stuff that is present and quick, and it's not. I don't think it's been stuff that's been mediated and meditated over for like
Yeah.
months and months. I feel like it's like he's like in the studio right now, and he tells us February 22nd, but it's like it's not like things have been finalized for months. I feel like he's
Yeah.
in the thick of it right now, and that's kind of how
Could be a good
Kanye goes.
SNL sketch with Chris Red as Kanye, kind of
Yes.
making now the fact that he did announce that he has a second album, and see what's up there. Maybe they could do a sketch about that. Like, oh, like it would be so fun to see an album in the making with Kanye West and going through
Mm,
that as a sketch and the day-to-day stuff in the album, and then the day of the album release where it doesn't happen. So I think
yep.
that definitely could be in the cards, and I should pitch it to the
You should
writers.
pitch it. Well, you're pitching it right here,
Yeah.
right now.
I am. Yes.
Um, and then it could be in Wyoming, and then maybe someone could play Jeffree Star for a
Yeah.
little. I would like that. I don't know how they would do it, but um, for anybody who doesn't get that reference, basically there was a whole thing that Jeffree Star might have been involved in some capacity with Kanye West, and then Jeffree Star like cleared the air, and he made a very funny YouTube video and was
Yeah,
like,
it
"That
was
is
so funny.
simply not happening." It was just this very random rumor, and then Jeffree Star, like I actually never loved Jeffree Star more than after that video where he cleared the air
Yeah.
and was like, "This is a really funny rumor. I'm really interested in however this was how whoever thought of this and ran with it, but it is not true." And it was very funny and well done. Okay.
Yeah, and well, let's make our predictions for this week. Just to recap, we spoke about the Taylor Swift drama, David Ortiz, variety actors and actors lineup, Jenny Wen, Justin Stephen Breyer, and the new Supreme Court Justice, the Big Brother cast, and Kanye West announcing Donda 2. So, which of those topics do you think will be on SNL this weekend?
Let's see. I've been pretty wrong pretty frequently. So, I'm not gonna say Britney and Jamie Lynn, and I watch this week be the week that happens, but we did talk about it. I'm gonna say I'm gonna play it safe. I'm gonna go Supreme Court justice. I think that's gonna happen in some capacity.
Yeah, I do agree. That was kind of where my head was going. And I think also something that's pretty obvious, and I know we mentioned it earlier, but David Ortiz, I do think if any time we're going to see the next Big Poppy segment, it would be this weekend. So those are my two predictions. But I do agree I have high hopes that both of them will be mentioned in this week's episode.
Ditto. All right. Well, that's that. We're just going to talk a little bit about what you can expect on the SNL Network coming up. We're back for an SNL episode with host Willem Dafoe and musical guest Katy Perry this weekend. And that's going to be a lot of fun. It's our last SNL until after the Olympic hiatus. So we'll get a lot of content, and it will be Winter Olympic content on NBC. I guess they're still I don't even know what's going on with all
Oh,
that stuff, but
that's why. I was really
yeah,
confused, but there weren't going to be episodes. But yeah, the Olympics, but they're also not airing it. I don't know.
it's like a whole thing. It's yeah, we won't get into it right now, but it's like a whole drama as Chen Biao kind of told us a little bit about it on
Yes,
Update.
that's the only thing I've heard
Um,
of it from.
that's where we get our news is Chen Biao, and that's it.
Yes, and I'm okay with it.
I'm fine. Oh, yeah, I could get Chen Biao once a week, and he just gives me, like, an update on everything politics, and I would
Yes,
just take that for face value and feel totally
me
fine.
too.
So anyway, we've got one last episode for quite some time, and I think it's going to be a really fun one. We'll be having our hot take show as always right after, so you can join in on YouTube at 1:10 a.m. Eastern. It will be Sunday morning, essentially right after SNL, and it's a really fun place to hang out with people and talk in the chat about the episode. And then we'll be having our roundtable on the Monday. I believe we're going to be having a patron feedback show that week as well. And then we will not be back next week because we are pretty much here in advance of SNL's. So it's think of us as like an on week in advance show. But yeah, but you'll I think you'll hear from us. We won't be gone for more than a month. We'll find a way to come back and do something pretty soon. But this
Yes,
will be the
and
last like traditional Hollywood dish for a while.
yes, and also tune in Monday to the roundtable because I will be there too,
Mm.
sharing my feedback on the episode, so you won't go without my voice for too long. But yeah, I'm excited for our next episode back on Hollywood Dish.
Yep, we don't know when it'll be. We don't know if we're gonna you'll see, you'll hear us, and I'll be on some coverage in the hiatus. We're gonna do a by the numbers show, which I'll be on, and it's probably some other stuff too. I will yeah, you'll be if you're sick of me, then you'll have to just stay being sick of me because I won't be gone too long. Yeah, so Rebecca, where can people find you if they want to DM you about Bravo or anything else?
People, yeah, I mean, if you're bored, just DM me. I'm always bored. At
Mhm.
Barbecue on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. But yeah, hit me up wherever, whenever.
Cool. And yeah, you can find me at Nicole Rovine on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, DM me or whatever the equivalent is on every social media. I'm pretty active, probably too active everywhere. And then of course, we're doing a lot of fun stuff on SNL Network socials, so you can follow us. Same deal, Instagram, Twitter, um, TikTok. If you're on YouTube right
Hmm.
now, make sure you hit that subscribe button. You can like this video. It just anything like that really helps people find the show. Also, if you're on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, now that Spotify has a review feature, you could go review us, subscribe, just all that stuff that is all the clicking and the numbers and all that stuff. It really, really does help people find the show. So we so appreciate any clicking and all that kind of stuff that you could do to help us. We really appreciate it. So yes, if for the next it'll be a little bit for till we have this show again, but you will be seeing both of us pretty soon on the SNL Network and a lot of other fun, exciting faces. So thank you all so much and have a great rest of your day, morning, evening, wherever it is, wherever you are, and take care.
Bye.